The dim glow of the museum lights cast long shadows over the glass case that held one of the most infamous objects in paranormal history, Annabelle. To the unsuspecting eye, she was just an old Raggedy Ann doll, faded with time, her stitched smile seemingly innocent. But behind that glass, locked away under strict warning, lay a dark and terrifying truth. Annabelle's story began in the 1970s when a nursing student named Donna received the doll as a birthday gift from her mother. At first, Annabelle seemed like nothing more than a nostalgic childhood toy. But soon, Donna and her roommate Angie noticed strange occurrences. The doll would appear in different positions, sometimes found in rooms they hadn't placed her in. Notes written in childlike handwriting with messages like, "Help me," appeared around their apartment. The most chilling moment came when they discovered red droplets on Annabelle's hands, as if she had been bleeding. Desperate and terrified, Donna sought the help of a psychic medium. The medium claimed that the doll was possessed by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins, who had died tragically near their apartment. Feeling sympathy, Donna and Angie allowed the spirit to stay, believing she meant no harm. But they were wrong. One night, a friend named Lou experienced the full wrath of Annabelle. He awoke to a suffocating sensation, paralyzed, as the doll crawled up his chest. Claw-like scratches appeared on his body the next morning, vanishing within hours. This was no innocent spirit, it was something much darker. Fearing for their lives, Donna contacted the renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens quickly determined that the doll was not inhabited by the soul of a child, but rather a demonic entity using the doll as a conduit. Its ultimate goal? To possess a human host. The Warrens took Annabelle and sealed her within a sacred glass case at their occult museum in Connecticut. A warning sign in bold letters read, "Positively do not open." Even within the case, Annabelle's presence remained menacing. Visitors who mocked the doll reported experiencing car accidents, near-death encounters, and unexplained tragedies after leaving the museum. One man, after challenging Annabelle, died in a motorcycle crash hours later. Lorraine Warren often warned that the doll was responsible for countless misfortunes. To this day, Annabelle remains one of the most terrifying haunted objects in existence. Despite being locked away, her legend continues to spread, sending chills down the spines of all who dare to listen. The question remains, what would happen if Annabelle were ever freed? In the quiet streets of late-night Japan, a chilling urban legend lurks in the shadows, the tale of Kukase Kana, the slit-mouthed woman. Whispers of her presence have been passed down for generations, striking fear into those who dare to walk alone after dark. Some say she appears under flickering streetlights, her presence heralded by a faint rustling of her long coat. Others claim she steps out from dark alleyways, her face obscured by a simple surgical mask. The legend dates back to Japan's Heian period when a beautiful but vain woman, married to a jealous samurai, was suspected of infidelity. Enraged by the thought of her betrayal, the samurai drew his blade and carved her mouth from ear to ear, leaving her to bleed out as he mocked, "Who will think you are beautiful now?" From that day forward, her vengeful spirit roamed the land, seeking validation and vengeance. As the story goes, Kukase Kana approaches unsuspecting victims, often lone travelers or schoolchildren, asking them a single haunting question, "Am I beautiful?" Should the victim answer no, she unsheathes a pair of scissors and kills them instantly. Should they say yes, she removes her mask, revealing her grotesquely carved mouth, and repeats her question. If the answer remains yes, she slashes their face to match her own. If they say no or scream in terror, she ends their life in a frenzy of bloodshed. Over time, urban legends have suggested ways to escape her wrath. Some say offering ambiguous answers, such as "you look average," confuses her long enough for one to escape. Others claim throwing sweets or coins on the ground distracts her, giving the victim a chance to flee. The more daring whisper that uttering the phrase, "I have an appointment," will make her disappear altogether. Sightings of Kukase Kana surged in Japan during the late 1970s, with numerous reports of a mysterious woman in a mask stalking schoolchildren. Panic gripped communities as local police received frantic calls about eerie encounters. Some historians believe these accounts were fueled by mass hysteria, while others insist that the spirit still walks among the living, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Even today, in the dim glow of modern city lights, her legend persists. Those who walk alone at night glance over their shoulders, wary of a rustling coat or a masked woman standing eerily still. The question remains, if you ever meet her on a deserted road and she asks, "Am I beautiful?" how will you answer? In the dark, fog-filled streets of Japan, a terrifying legend walks among the shadows, the story of the Teak-Teak ghost. Known for her haunting, guttural sounds and gruesome appearance, this urban legend has sent shivers down the spines of many, particularly those who venture out after sunset. Her name is whispered with fear, for those who encounter her are never the same again. The Teak-Teak ghost is said to be the vengeful spirit of a woman who met a tragic end. Decades ago, a young office worker was pushed onto the tracks of a speeding train. In a grotesque twist of fate, the woman was severed at the waist, her lower body torn away by the train's force. Left to die in agony, her spirit would not rest. She returned, twisted and filled with rage, determined to seek revenge on those who dared to cross her path. Legend has it that she drags herself along the ground with her arms, making a chilling sound, teak-teak, as her elbows scrape against the earth. This eerie noise is her signature, and it is said that anyone who hears it is doomed to encounter her. With a horrifying, half-human, half-ghastly form, the Teak-Teak ghost is usually seen dressed in tattered white clothing, her face twisted in an eternal expression of torment and anger. The most terrifying part of her legend is the grisly manner in which she claims her victims. Those unfortunate enough to cross her path are often approached from behind. When they turn around, they find her crawling toward them with inhuman speed, her head twisted at a grotesque angle. Before they can react, the Teak-Teak ghost uses a sharp object, such as a scythe or even her own severed arms, to slice her victim in half, just as she was once severed. There are various theories about how to escape her clutches. Some claim that running at top speed can outrun her, while others believe offering her an item of clothing can distract her long enough to flee. Others, more daring, say that speaking her name aloud will cause her to vanish, though no one knows for sure if this actually works. The Teak-Teak ghost's legend has haunted Japan for years, and she is often associated with train stations or rural roads where accidents are said to have occurred. Numerous reports from people across Japan describe hearing the Teak-Teak sound late at night, only to disappear without a trace when they attempt to investigate. Whether a figment of imagination or a genuine haunting, the Teak-Teak ghost's terrifying presence has left an indelible mark on Japanese folklore. The question remains, should you ever hear that chilling Teak-Teak sound? Will you be brave enough to look back? It was a cold winter night in a quiet suburban neighborhood, where a teenage girl named Emily was home alone. Her parents had gone out for the evening, leaving her in charge of the house and their loyal golden retriever, Max. Despite being alone, she felt safe with Max by her side. The large dog had always been protective of her, and he had a habit of sleeping under her bed whenever she was alone. As the night deepened, Emily locked all the doors and windows, ensuring everything was secure before heading to bed. She climbed under her warm blankets, with Max already settled underneath the bed. The comforting sound of his rhythmic breathing put her at ease. She reached a hand down and felt a wet lick on her fingers, a silent reassurance that she was not alone. With that, she drifted off into a peaceful sleep. Sometime in the middle of the night, Emily was startled awake by the sound of a soft, dripping noise. She groggily sat up and listened. Drip, drip, drip. It seemed to be coming from the bathroom. Thinking she had left the faucet running, she hesitated for a moment but then reached down again. As expected, Max licked her fingers, assuring her that everything was fine. Feeling comforted, she turned over and tried to go back to sleep. However, the dripping sound persisted, tapping against her nerves like a slow, rhythmic whisper. Drip, drip, drip. Annoyed, she finally decided to check it out. She slid out of bed, her bare feet touching the cold floor. Max remained unseen under the bed, his presence still comforting. Emily walked to the bathroom, her pulse steady but alert. She reached for the light switch and flipped it on. The bright fluorescent glow filled the small space, revealing the source of the sound. Her breath hitched in her throat. Hanging over the edge of the bathtub was Max, his golden fur matted with blood. His throat had been slit open, and his lifeless eyes stared back at her. Emily stumbled back in horror, her mind reeling. Her heart pounded as realization crept in. Max had been dead for hours. A sickening chill crawled up her spine. If Max was in the bathroom, then who had been licking her hand? A suffocating silence filled the air, broken only by a quiet rustling from under the bed. Emily turned slowly, her breath shaky. The last thing she heard before the lights flickered out was a low, guttural whisper. Humans can lick, too. In the quiet, moonlit nights along the rivers and lakes of Mexico, a sorrowful wail echoes through the air. The anguished cry of La Llorona, known as the Weeping Woman. Her legend has haunted generations. A tale of loss, regret, and eternal suffering. Her cries pierce the stillness of the night, warning all who hear them of the wrath of a mother scorned by her own heartache. The story of La Llorona dates back to colonial Mexico, where a beautiful woman named Maria lived with her children by the river. Born to a poor but proud family, Maria fell deeply in love with a wealthy man. In time, she married him and gave birth to 2 children. However, as the years passed, her husband's affections grew cold, and he began to turn his eyes toward younger, more beautiful women. Consumed by jealousy and anger, Maria's heartbreak led her to a terrible decision. One evening, in a fit of rage and despair, she took her children to the river and, in a fit of madness, drowned them, believing that their loss would make her husband love her once again. But as the reality of her actions set in, Maria realized too late the gravity of her mistake. The man she had loved left her, and in her grief, she cast herself into the river, where she drowned alongside her children, her soul forever bound to the waters. Since that fateful day, La Llorona's spirit has wandered the rivers, lakes, and streams, wailing for her lost children. Her anguished cries are heard by those who walk alone near bodies of water after dark. The legend tells that she searches endlessly for her children, calling their names in a mournful, heart-wrenching voice. "I, Ms. Hios, oh, my children." Those who hear her cries are said to be cursed, as La Llorona's soul is forever bound to the sorrow she caused. Many claim to have seen her, dressed in a tattered white gown, her face obscured by her long, wet hair. Her eyes, hollow and full of sorrow, are said to pierce through the darkness. Some believe that La Llorona targets young children, mistaking them for her own. Those who venture too close to the water's edge are said to be pulled into the depths, never to be seen again. Various versions of the legend claim different methods of escaping La Llorona's grasp. Some say if you run away and call out for your mother, she will spare you, as she only seeks the children she lost. Others believe that showing her a symbol of purity, such as a cross or a piece of white cloth, can protect you from her wrath. But no matter the advice, the warning is clear. Never walk alone near the water at night. La Llorona's legend endures, a dark reminder of the consequences of unchecked grief and rage. As her cries echo through the Mexican night, the tale of the Weeping Woman remains a cautionary tale for children and adults alike. Should you ever hear her cries on a quiet night, do not turn back. Her sorrow knows no bounds, and her search for redemption never ends. This elusive creature, said to be a blood-sucking beast with glowing red eyes and spiny ridges along its back, has been blamed for mysterious livestock deaths, each victim drained of blood through small, precise punctures. One such case occurred in a quiet village in Puerto Rico. Farmers awoke to find their goats lying motionless, their bodies eerily untouched except for twin wounds at their necks. Rumors spread quickly, and soon, the villagers whispered only one name: El Chupacabra. Javier, a skeptical rancher, refused to believe in the creature. Determined to prove it was nothing more than a pack of wild dogs, he set up a watch one fateful night, armed with a flashlight and a shotgun. Hours passed in silence, the only sound being the rustling wind through the trees. Then, just past midnight, he heard it, a low, guttural growl that sent chills down his spine. His flashlight flickered, and in its dim beam, he caught a glimpse of something crouching near the goat pen. It was unlike any animal he had ever seen, thin, hairless, with skin stretched tightly over its skeletal frame. Large, black eyes locked onto him, unblinking, as it bared its sharp teeth in an unnatural hiss. Then, in an instant, it was gone, vanishing into the darkness as if it had never been there. The next morning, Javier found 3 more goats dead, each with the same wounds. The authorities dismissed it as an animal attack, but Javier knew better. The legend was real, and El Chupacabra was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next victim. The legend of the Goatman of Maryland has haunted the backroads of Prince George's County for decades. It is said that deep within the woods near the Governor Bridge, a creature lurks, a half-man, half-goat abomination born from a sinister experiment gone wrong. Some claim he was once a scientist at the nearby Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, transformed by a twisted genetic experiment. Others whisper that he is something older, something ancient, a being tied to the land itself. One crisp autumn evening, James and his friends decided to test the legend. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, they parked their car near the infamous bridge and wandered into the darkened woods. Laughter and nervous jokes filled the air, but as they ventured deeper, the atmosphere shifted. The wind stilled, the rustling leaves seemed to hush, and an overwhelming sense of being watched crept over them. Then came the sound, a low, guttural bleat, unnatural and echoing through the trees. James froze. His friends exchanged uneasy glances. Suddenly, twigs snapped behind them. They spun around, their flashlights sweeping through the tangled underbrush. For a brief second, a figure stood at the edge of the light, a towering silhouette, its eyes glowing a deep, menacing red. The legs were wrong, bent like those of an animal, and its face, shadowed but unmistakably grotesque, bore the twisted features of a goat. Panic erupted. The group bolted back toward the car, adrenaline surging through their veins. James fumbled with the keys as the others piled in, their breaths ragged with fear. As he turned the ignition, a loud thud struck the back of the car. The vehicle rocked. No one dared to look back. Tires screeching, they sped away, their hearts pounding. The next morning, curiosity outweighed fear, and James returned to the site. The car, now covered in morning dew, bore deep gashes across the trunk. Gashes too large to be from any human or known animal. A chill settled in his bones. The Goatman was real, and he had been watching. The legend of Crybaby Bridge has haunted small towns across the United States, but none more so than the infamous bridge in Maryland. It is said that on certain nights, beneath the pale glow of the moon, the cries of an infant echo through the cold night air. Some claim it is the spirit of a mother's child, lost to the waters below. Others believe the bridge itself is cursed, trapping the souls of those who dare to cross it. On a chilly autumn night, Sarah and her friends decided to test the legend. Armed with nothing but flashlights and their phones, they parked near the rickety wooden bridge and stepped out into the eerie silence. The air was thick with mist, swirling lazily over the dark water below. As they stood there, hearts pounding, Sarah whispered the legend aloud. How a desperate mother once stood at this very spot, clutching her baby, before making a choice that doomed them both. A gust of wind swept through the trees, and suddenly, a soft wail rose from beneath the bridge. The group fell silent. Another cry followed, distant yet unmistakable, sending chills down their spines. Sarah's friend, Mike, laughed nervously. "It's just the wind," he muttered, stepping closer to the edge. The wailing grew louder. Then came the footsteps, light, deliberate, and impossibly close. Sarah spun around, her breath hitching, but no one was there. A wave of icy air washed over them, and suddenly, Mike staggered backward as if shoved by unseen hands. His phone slipped from his grasp, vanishing into the darkness below. Panic set in. The group scrambled back to the car, desperate to escape, but as they fumbled with the keys, something pounded against the vehicle, small, rhythmic knocks, as if tiny fists were rapping against the doors. Sarah screamed, and in an instant the sounds ceased. They sped away, the bridge disappearing into the mist behind them. The next morning, curiosity got the better of Sarah. She checked her phone, searching for any signs of what had happened. A chill ran through her as she found a single new recording. A low, distorted whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "Mommy, please don't let go." The legend of the black-eyed children has unsettled both the United States and the United Kingdom for decades. These eerie figures, appearing as pale-skinned children with entirely black eyes, are said to approach strangers at night, requesting entry into homes or vehicles. Their presence instills an overwhelming sense of dread, as if something deeply unnatural lurks beneath their innocent appearance. It was a stormy evening when David encountered them. Driving home through the dark countryside, he barely noticed the two figures standing on the side of the road, until one of them stepped into his path. Slamming the brakes, his heart pounded as he saw two children, no older than 10, standing motionless in the rain. Their clothes were outdated, almost like something from decades past, and they didn't flinch despite the freezing wind. David hesitated, rolling down his window slightly. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" he asked. "Let us in," the taller one said, voice flat and emotionless. "We need to call our parents." Something in his gut screamed at him to refuse. The unease turned to pure terror when the child raised his face fully into the light, revealing jet-black eyes, void of pupils, void of life. David's breath hitched. The second child stepped forward, mirroring the same empty stare. "Please," the child whispered. "We can't come in unless you say it's okay." Shaking, David slammed his window shut and threw the car into reverse. The children's faces didn't change, but they stepped closer. As he peeled away, his headlights flickered for a split second. Then the children were gone. When he arrived home, shaken but safe, he locked every door and window. But the unease never left. That night, as he lay in bed, a soft knock echoed through his house. Then another. And then, from just outside his bedroom window, a familiar whisper sent ice through his veins. "Please, let us in." The legend of the Chupacabra has terrified rural communities across Latin America for decades. It was a bitterly cold night when Mark Reynolds drove down the winding back roads of Illinois, his headlights cutting through the dense fog that hugged the asphalt. He had been driving for hours, the monotony of the road beginning to lull him into a daze when he spotted something up ahead. A young woman stood by the roadside, her figure barely illuminated by the flickering streetlight above. She was wearing a pale blue dress, thin and fluttering in the wind, entirely unsuited for the chilling air. Her long, dark hair cascaded down her shoulders, and her face held a haunting sadness. Mark pulled over and rolled down the passenger window. "Need a ride?" he asked, his breath forming white clouds in the freezing air. The girl nodded silently and slipped into the seat beside him. She smelled faintly of lavender and rain, her skin unnaturally cool. "Where are you headed?" he asked, trying to mask his unease. "Home," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost distant. Mark nodded and started driving, glancing at her occasionally. She sat still, staring out the window as if lost in thought. As they approached a small, white house at the edge of town, she suddenly turned to him. "This is where I live," she murmured. He pulled into the driveway and turned to say goodbye, but the seat beside him was empty. His stomach lurched. The door hadn't opened. The girl had simply vanished. Heart pounding, Mark stepped out and knocked on the door of the house. An elderly woman answered, her eyes tired yet kind. Before he could speak, she sighed, as if she had done this 100 times before. "You saw her, didn't you?" she asked softly. Mark swallowed hard. Who was she? The woman's eyes glistened with sorrow. "My daughter. She died in a car accident on this road 20 years ago. Every year, she tries to come home." A chill ran down Mark's spine. He turned back to his car, his mind reeling. On the seat where the girl had been, a single pale blue ribbon lay, damp with the mist of the night. Mark never drove that road again.